Hello, good evening. Welcome to This Happy Guru. Namaste. Today I'm going to be talking, kind of amalgamating some of the conversations that I've been having in the last few weeks about setting goals. We've talked about imagination. We've talked about the importance of being able to create your life through imagining it and really bringing it to life. We've talked about being authenticity, being the real you, what that really looks like. And today I wanted to talk about kind of amalgamating those sort of things in terms of getting something done, in terms of manifesting, being able to really bring this into your life and get stuff done for you. Get hold of those dreams, get hold of those goals, and really begin to work forward into what it is that you really envisage your life being at its absolute best, how you'll be most happy. Okay, so when I'm doing my coaching through with my clients, we work a lot on goals. In fact, the majority of our sessions are spent looking at our goals, wondering and looking at whether or not we're getting towards one or two of them specifically, being able to adjust the milestones that we've put in place to be able to get to those goals. Because the point with setting goals is when you begin to imagine in your mind about what it is that you really want to create, the life that you really want to live, the goal that you're really, really heading towards, it can get a little bit intimidating. It can get a little bit like, oh, but how am I going to get there? Oh, but I don't know if I can do this or that or the other. But there's a stumbling block, and it's always been this for me. All these little things that we go over and over with ourselves in our minds. And then when it comes to sitting down with a coach, someone like me, it's often vocalizing those that actually begins to eliminate the fear. So one of the things I wanted to do today is to kind of run through with you guys how you can set specific goals and the measured steps to get there so that you actually achieve these goals. It's not rocket science. You don't have to go out and buy anything. You just really have to sit and spend some time with yourself. Give yourself a time. Give yourself maybe a pen and a paper, so that you can begin to jot stuff down when things are coming in through download, through your conscious self. You begin to jot these things down and also begin to form a structure, about how what you want and how you're going to get there. Okay, so one of the things that you might face when you are beginning to set goals is this sense of bewilderment or confusion or kind of feeling outside of your comfort zone is the best way I think of describing it. You'll begin to feel a little bit conscious, a little bit uneasy. You're taking yourself, your mind is coming out of the usual place that you reside, if you like, that the place where, okay, if I do this, that's going to get done. If I do this, that's going to get done. I know all this because I've done it for years, or I've been doing this for months, or, I've seen the results before. It's a comfort zone. It's a place where you know that what you're going to do is going to gain the results that you want. When you start looking at your life goals, things that you really, really want to achieve, somewhere in your subconscious, you've put this goal up on a pedestal, up on a kind of the unachievable. You're really going to have to struggle up to get there, and that is what begins to set in the confusion in your mind and the bewilderment, that idea that I could actually have this, like this isn't just a dream in kind of dream space. This is actually something that I can have and hold and live every day. And to begin to get your mind around that can take a while. It really can, depending on what your goals are. If you start small, then, I want to lose 5 pounds, for example. I want to lose 5 pounds or 5 kilos. I want to lose that weight. That's what I'm going towards. And then there are measured steps to do that. And as long as you stick to those steps, you will lose weight. So with losing weight, generally tends to be like reducing portion sizes, reducing the type of foods that you eat. If you eat a lot of processed and carby foods, a lot of starchy foods, tends to be reducing the amount of intake you have in on that. Tends to be about bringing in exercise, because as much as what you eat matters, it's really about how your body processes that food as to whether or not you gain and hold weight. So again, bring exercise into it and you'll begin to, it's a game changer. You begin to really hone your body, shape your body into the shape that you're looking for, as well as losing the weight to be able to get there. So this is just one little way that, we talk about with my coaching as well. A lot of people come to me feeling very ashamed of their bodies, very negative about their self-appearance. And that, of course, affects their self-esteem, which means that they don't think they're worthy of anything. And so they treat themselves accordingly, which means, generally speaking, you don't care too much about the food that you put in your mouth. You're not caring too much about looking at food as a kind of fuel rather than a kind of a taste-driven experience. It's hard to make those first steps initially. We all know that. Everybody, I think I know pretty much has ever been on a diet. They've kind of got to that stage where they're like, no, I need to trim down. I need to slim down, whether it be for a wedding, whether it be for a holiday, whether it just be because summer's coming up and you've got to try and fit into all those old clothes that are at the bottom of your wardrobe now, all those sorts of things. But it's the same with your life. Sometimes you get to a point where you just think, right, something's got to give, something's got to change. I'm not happy in the job that I'm in. I'm not happy in the house that I'm living in or in the area that I'm living in. I'm not happy doing what I do for a living. It doesn't fill me up anymore. It doesn't excite me every day. I'm bored. I'm bored of receiving the same old emails every day and not feeling like I have any control over my life as to how I can really manage that and deal with it and step away from that side that just isn't lighting me up. I really don't believe, if I'm honest, that any part of your life should be boring. I don't believe in the mundane. I don't believe in routines even being boring. Even your routine you can spice up. You can make it kind of more like a ritual or ritualistic. You can make it mean more to you. We've talked about self-love in the last few weeks, and I talk about turning routine into ritual so that you actually begin to turn the routine, the boring mundanity of the routine, into something that's filling you up, that's making you feel special, that's highlighting how wonderful a person you are, and that you deserve to have care taken, that you deserve to have your dreams, you deserve to be able to achieve your goals. And that's really why it's so important to have goal setting in your life, and to be able to kind of just gradually move through life, setting you and resetting your goals. This is what I've come to do now over the last 3 or 4 years. I've been resetting and setting my goals. And I find it a really cathartic experience. First of all, it makes me feel like I'm on the right path, which is something that I struggled with for a long time. I used to really struggle with wondering and well, just being able to place myself, I suppose, in where do I fit in the world? Where do I fit in the world? I was never one of those kids that went through school and knew exactly what they wanted, knew that I was going to go to university, knew that I was going to study this or that, and I was going to get there, and that was going to be it, me, job done, tick. That was what I was going to do. I was never that girl. I ummed and ahed about different things. I enjoyed doing the things that I enjoyed doing, and so always put my efforts and most of my time into those things, whether that was like creative art or drama or singing or traveling or looking after my animals or whatever it was that I did. I would always spend the majority of my time doing those things because that was the stuff that I enjoyed. And I began to really think about that as I was looking over my life and thinking to myself, where exactly do I want to go? What exactly do I want to do? What is it that fills me up that I want to be able to dedicate like 8-9 hours a day minimum, right? 5 days a week, again, minimum, of my life into this thing. And it didn't take a long time for me to be able to ascertain what my main focuses were, but it did take construct thought. So it did take me putting my mind in a place where I had to be disciplined. I had to look honestly at my life. I had to really spend time imagining myself in my best possible scenario. And this is essentially what coaching is all about. And once I'd taken myself through um, all those rituals, all those ways of thinking, all those kind of constructs of thought, then I began to really build in my mind what it was that I wanted to achieve. And as I began to see this in my mind, I began to kind of feel it in my body and feel myself in that place. And then the excitement began to grow. That kind of bubbling away in your stomach, that nervous energy that actually, as it begins to move up towards your heart, becomes like excitement and becomes like joy. This is actually, I can actually do this. This could actually be me. I could live this life. And then when I got to that point, I hit my first stumbling block, because then I was like, okay, I could definitely do this. But how? What's going to be my first step? How am I going to get there? What's going to keep me getting there when everything else in life, all my, the drawings for my business, my kids, my husband, my dog, my life in general, all the stuff that you have to do, all the responsibilities, all those sorts of things became like a bit of a weight around me. And suddenly this joy is pushed down, pushed down. And what I felt like initially was it's just not achievable. I'm just not going to be able to get there. But when I kept looking at this dream and kept thinking about it and kept closing my eyes and picturing myself doing the things that I love to do and in this life that I knew I wanted to create, I knew I wanted to build, the joy would keep welling up inside me. And eventually it became less like, oh, the responsibilities are heavy, they're weighing heavy on me, and more like, okay, but I can do this alongside that. And I can amalgamate that with that so that I don't have to spend too much time doing this. And I began to see ways that I could crack through this heavy, weighty exterior around me and actually really open up some time, open up some space and go for it. Because at the end of the day, I really had nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. If life's not going the way you want it to go, then change it. The only person that can do that is you. The only person who knows how they really want it to feel and look is you. You can describe it to other people, but they're never going to be able to build that enthusiasm for your life like you can. You're the only one living it, right? And it's important that you do live your life because each one of us is here for a specific reason, I believe. Otherwise, why would we be so unique? Why would we have such different thought patterns? Why would we have such different ways of expressing things? We're each unique for a reason. To belittle that is like belittling life itself, and we all know how attached we are to life. So why not make it the best life that you possibly can, right? So one of the first things that we need to do when we're looking at manifesting our life and really beginning to create a life that we dream of living, that we're excited to live, that every day is an absolute blessing, we need to be specific about exactly what it is that we're going to go for. Now, when I say specific, I don't mean I want to lose weight or I want a new car. I mean being specific as in I want to lose 15 pounds by the 28th of July this year, right? That's like 8 weeks away, say, for example. I can't do all the maths quickly in my head, but say it's 8 weeks away. Okay, that's what I want to do. That's my goal, okay? And it could be anything else. It could be this time next year, I want to be working for myself. I want to be working in self-development arena. I want to be using my yoga, my life coaching, my holistic therapy training, my knowledge of essential oils and nutrition and all these things to be building the life that I dream of living, because I know if I amalgamate all of these things, then all my cylinders are firing, right? So you've got to be specific. You've got to know exactly what it is that you want. And it doesn't have to be, the first goal steps don't have to be the big goal. You can make them the big goal, for sure, you can. But sometimes it's often easier and more achievable, in honesty, especially if you're new to this way of training your brain, especially if you've never done any goal setting before, especially if you're kind of a bit of a newbie coming at it. Find a goal that feels like it's within reach, but you just have so many things stopping you from getting you there that's always the excuse that you lean back on. Okay, so be specific. Whether it's a small goal, if you like, small goal can be anything. Can be the losing weight thing, can be the moving house thing. Small goal in your grand life scheme of things can be that. Or it could be the big goal. It could be the whole, I'm shipping and changing everything in my life. Okay, I want a whole new life. I'm unhappy where I am. I'm unhappy in the job that I'm doing. I'm unhappy in the relationship that I'm in. I'm unhappy with the way that I look, the way that I feel. I have no connection to anything. These are the big kind of real life changing goals that you would want to kind of be looking at seriously. If you're feeling any one of these things, you want to be looking at that seriously, okay? Because you spend too much time in work not to be enjoying it, not to having it fill you up on some level. Not every part of work is always going to be amazing, granted. However, the majority of it, like 7 out of your 8 hours a day, at least, I would say, should be in an environment that you enjoy, in an environment that you believe that you're making a difference in and that you have a purpose in. right? Those are kind of the basic constructs for feeling worthwhile, for feeling useful. Then you need to be looking at kind of the measurement of how you can achieve your specified goal. Okay, so when I say measurement, I kind of mean what is it that would validate your understanding that you have achieved what you set out to achieve. Okay, so for example, going back on the weight one, it's quite an easy one. Going back on the weight one, like I said, I want to lose 15 pounds. So that's your measurement, right? That's your measurement right there. I want to lose 15 pounds. Nothing less will do. More? Okay, more. Yeah, everyone wants to lose more weight, but 15 pounds is my absolute minimum that I'm losing. Okay, that is my goal. That is my measurement. Now, between now and the next 8 weeks, that means I have to roughly do about 2 pounds a week, you know, and I'm hoping that for the first couple of weeks, I'm going to be losing a bit more than 2 pounds a week. But I do recognize and I do understand that, you know, your body takes a while to begin to get into these patterns of losing weight and drawing, the nutrients and the proteins and stuff from our muscles, using the carbohydrate around the muscles for energy. It needs to get into that path of learning as well. But 15 pounds is my goal. That is my measurement. That is my measured weight to be lost. So you be specific. You say to yourself, 15 pounds by a certain time. Okay, this is what's going to make me happy. I know, because that means I'll be able to fit into that dress that I could wear really comfortably and I loved myself in when I was 15 pounds lighter. Okay, so that can be your measurement. So it's your being specific. It's then adding yourself just another level of specification onto it. You're adding into your measurements. You want to be able to know exactly when you've achieved this goal, and more importantly, when you're achieving it. Okay, because as you go through your weight loss, for example, you're going to be losing a couple of pounds here, a couple of pounds there. You might put on a couple of pounds and you'll feel to yourself, oh no, I'm going backwards. But if your weight loss is gradual and constant, you will get there. And that's something to remember as well. That's something to kind of build into your measurement. As long as the progression is always moving forward, as long as you're progressing and you're not regressing, then you're working constantly towards your goal. And progression can be seen in many different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be about weight loss, for example. You know, it can be your progression is that you're still doing all the things that you know you need to do to lose the weight, right? You're still doing the shake in the morning. You're still walking for those 5 miles a day. You're still going to the gym 3 times a week. You know, that is progression, because that's still change from the previous lifestyle that you'd adopted and you were living, you know? So being able to kind of look at your measurement and then being specific also about what that measurement is. It can be your 15 pounds, but if it's also constant progression towards your goal, then that in itself is measurement. And you can take that and you can say to yourself, right, every week I'm going to the gym 3 times a week, end of. At the end of your week, you can tick that box. That box ticking, that whole movement, that whole recognition is measurement too. It's measurement of progress and how well you're doing. So the next thing that we want to be looking at, we're looking at being specified. You're looking at the measurement. You're looking at really setting goals and beginning to work through them till you get to a point where you're feeling like it's beginning to get away from you. Because you'll always get to that place where it's beginning to get away from you. You know, I've only been to the gym 2 times this week, and I've been really, really good for the last 3 days, and then I ate half a chocolate gatter, you know, or I went out drinking with my mates, and you know, my health tip now has just gone straight downhill because I had a brilliant night out. It was so much fun. It was wicked, but I'm literally suffering from it for like 3 days afterwards, which was meant that, you know, because I've got low energy, I'm taking the paracetamol and I'm taking the ibuprofen for my headaches. Because I am kind of feeling so low energy, I'm reaching for the carbs, I'm reaching for the crisps, I'm reaching for the chocolate, I'm reaching for anything that is going to give me the energy that I'm missing from my body, because basically it's still trying to cleanse itself from all the alcohol that I've brought in and the late night that I had and all the dancing and everything that I did. You know, so it's kind of, you need to be aware that if you slip off, there will be a time of bringing yourself back. onto the road, onto the specific, onto the measurements. Okay. And you need to kind of be aware of those things. Those things are going to happen. But it's fine. You know, half of it is part of the process as well, because half of learning something is failing at it and then bringing yourself back onto it and being more structured and being more firm with yourself and realizing and recognizing that, you know, okay, I fell off the wagon. I did. You know, I've completely let go. But now I'm back on it, and I'm back on it bigger and better than ever. You know, we've all heard this before, but you do have to focus your mindset on those things. You do have to be specific about what you're setting up. You do have to have a measurement of it. At some point, you're going to have to recognize that you're going to slip off the wagon at some stage. But then when you bring yourself back again, brilliant, even better. You know, you brought yourself back. You didn't give up. You didn't give out. You didn't say to yourself, oh, well, I've had 3 days off now. I might as well just leave it for the rest of the week. And, oh, God, I probably put on like 10 pounds. I've undone everything. Therefore, that's it. Goal gone. You know, I can't move towards it anymore. Like I've looked at my schedule. I've looked at my specifics. I've looked at my measurement of it. I can't possibly achieve what I set out to achieve now. Okay. That is not acceptable. Okay. Not when you're goal setting, not when you really want something. To fall over and not get back up. None of us would ever do that in real life. In fact, that's what you learn from being a kid. The minute you start to walk, and you're toppling over and you're learning about your balance and you're feeling into your body and you fall over, what's the first thing that you do? The first thing that you do is try to get up again. Whether it just be to lift your face up the floor so that you can find your mum and cry to her about you being so disappointed that you've fallen over, or whether it's just that determination. No, I was doing it before. Hang on, I'll do it again. And you push yourself up and you get back on with it. Right? It's what we do as human beings. We get back on that wheel. We get back in the seat. You know, we keep going. We keep pushing through. You know, we do this every day in life. And I know this because I've suffered from depression and I still push through every single day. And I recognize how much willpower that took for me to get up, for me to get on, for me to do what I needed to do. Okay. It took a lot. When all you ever want to do is pull the stuff over, pull the covers over your eyes, pull the sheets over your head and just forget that the world exists. It takes a lot to get yourself up and out. And it takes a lot of mind space. It takes a lot of self-thought. It takes a lot of self-love. Okay, to accept that, oh, there I am, not perfect. Never mind. Getting on with it like every other imperfect being around me is. Okay, so be specific, be measured, but keep your drive even if you fall away from the measurement. Okay, because you can always catch up, you can always make up, you can do all those things, and you will have learned from your lesson. So it really is a positive, as much as it might feel like a negative, as much as you might feel like, oh, you know, I've dropped off it. I'm not doing it anymore. You know, I'll leave it. I just won't. I'll just get another dress for that wedding that I looked so fabulous in last year when I could reach it because I was 15 pounds lighter. I'll just, you know, all these excuses that we make. And you can understand why your subconscious mind makes all these excuses for you, because it feels softer, it feels kinder to do that to you. You know, when you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, you are taking yourself into a place where, you know, things aren't familiar, right? And so you feel a little bit worried, feel a little bit concerned about how it all might go, you know, and basically facing those fears, those worries, that anxiety is, again, one of the reasons that we kind of should be challenging ourselves, because once you've got over it once, it's a lot easier to get over it again. And once you've got over it twice or 3 times, even it's a lesser feeling. It's a lesser feeling of fear. It's a lesser feeling of anxiety. You know, it does bubble up and you can see it and you know it, but you're kind of just like, you know, I know. I often do that to myself when I'm feeling anxious. I just hold my heart and say, yeah, I know. You're feeling the fear. It's good. It's fine. But we're still doing it, you know? And often looking at myself in the mirror, looking myself straight in the eye and being like, I know you're scared. I know you're worried about it. I know you're like freaking out about what people will think and how people will take you. But at the end of the day, you are you. You need to be you. That is your number one job. Get out there and shine. And I'll have these little conversations with myself just to kind of like really, yeah, okay, I'm doing it. It's like a little pep talk, right? Yeah? It's a pep talking yourself. Do it. The strength in talking to yourself is immense. Everyone poo-poos it as a sign of madness. I don't. I think it's a sign of strength. If I can hear people talking to themselves, I know they're having a dialogue. I know they're in creation. You know, I know they're doing something. They're talking themselves through it. They're making themselves do it. They're pushing themselves on. They're encouraging themselves. Again, when we're little, we're looking out for these words of encouragement from our families, from our mothers, from our teachers. We all love to feel that encouragement and that positivity, you know, and that idea that, yeah, you can do this. You've got this. You're totally on this. You know, you have this in your abilities. So don't waste it. And just keep pushing forward and keep going no matter what. Fail. What is it? The first attempt at, what is it? One of them is first attempt at imitating life, which I think is a little bit abstract, a little bit obscure. And then the other one's first attempt in learning. That's the one that I like. That's what my kids come home with from their school. First attempt in learning, fail. You know, and I'm like, oh, I love that, guys. And they're kind of like, oh, they're hung up on the word fail. They understand what the word fail means. First attempt in learning, they're kind of a bit like, well, what does that mean then? You know, well, how have you turned it? Why do you think that that's a good acronym? Why do you think that that works well, Mum? I don't get it. Why you're going, yeah, and I'm saying fail. No, you know, and I say, because you have to learn. You have to learn. This is what we're here to do. Every day we're learning. Okay, but to be able to believe that you can just learn something, boom, like that, is doing yourself a great disservice. And it's doing all these kind of the people who are really, really thinking and creating things a big disservice too, because you're assuming that they just got there, that it just happened to them, that some level of luck was involved or some level of kind of divine intervention was involved. And suddenly they understood this amazing mathematical equation. Suddenly they understood that, you know, I don't know, how to balance on one hand, that it didn't take any practice, that they could just do. But this is just not true. This is not a truth. And the more you believe the untruths, the higher your expectations of yourself are and the less realistic they are. So it's really important to begin to kind of understand that every time there's a perception of failure, it's actually just a transient point of learning. And that's really, really important, not just for the kids growing up today to be able to learn. I enforce that into my kids now. I'm just like, no, you know, practice. Practice will get you everywhere, everything. Everything is coming with practice. This is what the gurus say. Everything is coming with practice because it's true. You know, you don't just get something. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. If you're watching something on television, so many things are being like pushed out to you. You know, suddenly you just get it. You know, it's just like, oh yeah. But you're responding then on very many levels as well. You're not just learning to do something through one thing. So suddenly you might get a joke, but other people might not, you know. Okay, I'm digressing. I'm going to move on. So we've been specified. We've been measured. We need to be measured about our goals. Now we're going to be looking at evidence, the evidence of being there and having moved into a space of achieving your goal. Now that can be, again, anything, like, you know, as we're talking about weights, carrying on with that example, you know, it will be the fact that, you know, you look on the scales and you've lost 5 pounds. It will be the fact that you put on a pair of jeans that you couldn't do up before you started your little weight loss plan. And then now you can do them up and actually they feel really comfortable. It can be the fact that you recognize that you've lost weight around your face, around your arms, around your legs, or around your waist. You know, any of these things. These things are evidence. And it's important when you're recognizing evidence to recognize evidence as part of the result from your specified measurements and your plan. Okay, so that means that when you look at something and you think to yourself, oh, yeah, I've lost 5 pounds. You don't just like chalk that up to luck. You don't just chalk that up to anything other than hard work, self-discipline, sacrifice, and your drive and your passion. Okay, because it was realistically, it was those 4 things that got you there. Okay, it's that determination in yourself to keep going, even though you wanted that donut and it looked so good and everybody else in the office was having one. You said no, right? That's your determination. You know, that's your drive. That's your passion for the things that you want. pat yourself on the back for it, because it's things like that that get stuff done, right? You need to recognize the evidence as being a part and parcel of all the things that you've put into place to get there. Okay, so think about it. Think about what exactly it was that you had to give up, the sacrifice part of it. What was it exactly that you had to get up to lose those 5 pounds? You're in this state of joy. You could do your jeans up. You're feeling fabulous. Okay, all it took me was giving up the cake stuff for the last 3 weeks, which, okay, initially was hard. And when there was that birthday at work, I literally had to walk out the office and get myself a peppermint tea, because it was just too much looking at all those cakes. But at the same time, I'm 5 pounds in, and already that 5 pounds has made a huge difference, not just to the way I look and to the way I fit into my clothes, but the way I feel about myself. I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling accomplished. I've achieved something. I'm achieving something. Okay, bring it always into the present. I'm achieving this, and all it took was this, and this. Okay, so be really aware when you see the evidence from your actions. Be really, really aware about exactly what it was that you had to give up, and the stuff that you have had to go without, and the self-discipline that is taken, getting yourself up at like 6 o'clock every morning so that you can get yourself ready, go to the gym, and then go to work. And you've done it every day for the past 3 weeks. Recognize the change that you have instigated in your life, and recognize that it's working. Recognize that too is evidence. It's evidence that your plan, that your methods are working, that they will get you there. Okay, it's really, really important to do that. And when you do see evidence, I encourage my clients always not only just to pat themselves on the back, but to give themselves a little treat, to give themselves, and I'm not talking about a treat that's going to kind of sabotage your plan. I'm not saying, okay, brilliant, you've lost 5 pounds, go out and have a McDonald's, go and put that 3 pounds back on again, and then, okay, you still will have lost 2. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying go and give yourself a treat. Go and take yourself somewhere that makes you feel good. Now, if you're taking yourself shopping for new clothes because you've lost 5 pounds, great. Just remember that your goal is 15. Okay, so you're going to be losing a significant more amount of weight when when you're doing this. So perhaps new clothes, save that to the end, okay? But certainly going and making yourself, an avocado salad, for example, with mango and avocado and coriander, salsa, fresh tomatoes chopped in there. Make this beautiful, colorful salad that not only nourishes you, but makes you feel really happy about the choices that you're making, because you're staying on your path. And you've kind of brought in the avocado because it's technically fatty. It's not on most diets, but at the end of the day, it's a good fat and you love it. So you bring that in and you make up this beautiful bowl of color there for yourself. And you're just thinking to yourself, yeah, lovely. Pour on your favorite dressing. Maybe it's olive oil, balsamic vinegar, a bit of mustard, some lemon juice or something mixed in there. However it is that you roll. Then do that and then sit and mindfully eat or mindfully treat with whatever you want to do yourself. And every mouthful that you take, congratulate yourself. Inwardly pat yourself on the back with every mouthful that you take, and be mindful about that whole experience. Okay, because it's you championing you, and the only way you will get forward with your goals, with your life plan, with the with this whole plan that you're envisaging, that you're imagining to live this specific beautiful life that you created, will make you the ultimate happy person in this world. The only way you're going to get there is by championing yourself, believing in yourself, and pushing on forward through the hard times. So I think it's important to kind of recognize that, right? It's important to say, yeah, absolutely. I've done really well there, really well. I could have kind of slipped off the wagon and, I could have done this, I could have done that. But actually it's proven to me that I can focus my attentions on one thing and that I can manifest the weight loss that I'm wanting. It's made me realize that I feel so much better about myself also when I'm doing things that are healthy for myself, when I'm recognizing that I feel better, I look better, I feel more joy, emotionally, I feel much more joy. I feel more elated in being me every day, and that feeling, you can't buy that feeling. You can't treat yourself to that feeling. So keep working towards it all the time. And when you get it, recognize it and sit and enjoy it. You know, I have little periods of time in my day where I literally touch base with me. It's kind of like this, and it can be at any time. It's not structured times of the day, but I make sure I do it at least 3 times. 3 and 5 are my lucky numbers. So I make sure I do it at least 3, and I try to do it 5. That's just the way I bring my numerology into my life, you know, those little gifts from the universe. But one of the times that I like to do now, especially now that it's beginning to heat up a little bit in the UK, is when I take my dog for a walk, I will give myself a 5-minute meditation, just sitting in the middle of a field with nature all around me. And I just give myself that 5-minute meditation where I just drop in and I focus in on me and I just wonder how I'm feeling. Okay, just wondering, just kind of, how am I feeling today? How am I feeling now? I've had a great morning. I've done my CCN network program. I've helped my client out. I've done 2 hours of that. I've then done my yoga practice first thing. Okay, so it's now like midday, 1 o'clock. How am I feeling? What have I got? How do I feel about the rest of my day? Drop yourself into it and really give yourself that time. Okay. One of the next things that we're going to talk about is time, is being able to be realistic about timelines that you set for things, whilst at the same time challenging yourself to keep moving progressively. Okay, so the danger is when you set yourself a timeline for things is that you either make it too quick or too far away. All right, so for example, I want to lose my 15 pounds. If I give myself a week to do it, I'm opening myself up for disappointment. If I give myself a month to do it, I'm still in that frame of disappointment, really. You know, there's only so much a woman at 41 can lose, you know, at a certain time and not be working at the gym all day long and, you know, maintain life, or the realities of life, you know, all those sorts of things. So you need to structure yourself in a timeline, but you do need to be realistic about it. Okay. And this can mean a number of things. This can mean realistic in terms of how long it's going to take you to get there, but it's also got to be a realistic timeline for you within your normal life per se. Okay, so if you're looking at your massive goal, if you're looking at your big life goal where you are saying, I'm going to be out of a job, I'm going to be out of this house, I'm going to be living in another country, and I'm going to be running my own business from over there. These 4 things are not things that you can turn around in a matter of weeks. Okay, these are things that need some preparation. And this is why a timeline is really, really important for it. I've done this a few times in my life. I've moved all over the world. And every time I do the same thing. I give myself a timeline of things that need to happen, of places, steps that I need to take, if you like, to be able to get myself through to my ultimate goal. So when we moved to Thailand, it was a dream of ours for a long time, first of all. And so it was easy for me because in a sense, because I was going to be doing it with somebody, which is always a great catalyst for movement, I find. When you've got that accountability of somebody else there, and I know this with coaching, right? Most of my coaching time I spent making people accountable for their actions and holding them to their words, holding them to their steps. When I was preparing to go to Thailand, there were a lot of things as I looked around that I knew I needed to deal with, a lot of things. So one of the first things that I recognized was that I was going to need to get rid of a load of our stuff because we were literally moving everything over to Thailand, and yet we couldn't take everything. So we knew we were going to take a 20-foot container with us. We knew how much that was costing. That was factored into our budget. That was all I could take. And I knew roughly what the dimensions of that were going to be. And I knew the sort of stuff that we wanted to take with us that was really, really sentimentally important. And it tends to be the sentimentally important things tend to be about this big, don't they? You know, they tend to be the smaller things that you can kind of carry around with you. Pieces of jewelry, you know, maybe pictures of loved ones, maybe paintings, those sorts of things. But they don't tend to be 3-piece suites, double beds, you know, all these sorts of things. Don't tend to have too much of a sentimental attachment to those things. However, when you're moving abroad, when you're moving across seas into the unknown, and you know you're going to arrive and you're going to have nothing, and you know you're arriving in the morning at 11 o'clock, and you know you're going to want to sleep about 12 hours later, you know, what exactly are you going to be able to get yourself before 11 o'clock in the evening comes? What are you going to be able to achieve in that time, bearing in mind you've got to get from the airport into your house, you've got to, begin to unpack, you've got to think about things like food and water, where you're going to get those basic things from. Maybe you need transport, maybe you need to organize transport, maybe, all these different things. So to be able to prepare yourself for that initial arrival before you get there is, one of the kind of the most important parts of my step towards my initial change, getting into Thailand, for example. So I looked around at everything that we had, and I had to be very, very, very disciplined in what we were taking. Stuff that I had hidden away for years and years and years since I was about like 10, had to go eventually. Not all of it. I did keep some of the stuff. I made myself one box. I gave myself that. Said, right, you have one box full of like your treasures, your memorabilia, the things that you wanted to keep in your life. And you can fill that one box. Now, once that one box is filled, then you need to be a little bit more kind of strict with what it is that you're going to be taking. So I did the same thing basically with the house. I went around the house. I went into the kitchen. I looked at all the stuff that I wasn't going to be able to take, all the slow cookers, the coffee machines, the kettle, the toasters, all those sorts of things. And I started making a list of people that I knew who would benefit or might be able to benefit from any one of these things, and gradually began to contact them and sort of say, look, we're moving out here. Would you like my slow cooker? I've only used it 3 times in the last year. And it's brand, pretty much brand new. I've got the box, I've got the receipt, everything's on warranty for 5 years. Would you like it? And being able to contact people that I knew would make use of it, and that I could kind of just give it to and or feel better for. And that was kind of my outlook with that. I want to find homes for all these things. And I would like them to go, I'd like them, because the charity shops in England don't accept things like electronic goods and stuff. So I would like to go them to people who, are going to use them and need them anyway. So that became one of the first things, make a list about all the things that I was going to then give away. So it became, first of all, about electrical items. Then I began to move into the bedroom, and I realized that I have things, ornaments around my house that, I barely even look at, really. They just collect dust. That's probably the time that I do look at them, is when I pick them up to dust them all around and dust underneath them and put them back down again. And then, so why am I keeping these things? It begins to become a bit of an eye-opener. Why am I keeping these things? Why am I holding on to these things? What have I made these things mean to me? What level of security have I attached of my own self-esteem, of the person that I am? Why have I got all these things around me? Why am I still surrounding myself with all these things? And so, again, moving towards my timeline, it became about getting rid of all this stuff. Now, some of the stuff was going to be able to go to the charity shop because they can sell all stuff like this, and I feel good about donating things to charities. But some of the other stuff I knew I wanted to keep. Some of the other stuff was so expensive that I really wanted to sell it. So that would become a new little plan for me as well. It's like, sell the stuff from the house that you won't be able to take to Thailand. So that became things like, I had some Royal Doulton crystals. I had, what else did I have? I had I had loads of kids' toys. So my son was 3 at the time, and we bought him, and other people had bought him so much stuff. So garage ramps and things with little cars that could be able to drive all around it. A rocket that, you press a few buttons and it makes this big explosion noise, and it drives up and it goes up to the sky. Things like that. Things, in fact, loads of kids' stuff that I wanted to either give away or try to sell. And yeah, I became obsessed almost in making lists and my timelines for when these things needed to go by and when I could sort of start selling them as well. Because obviously you can't sell winter clothes in summer, it's things like that, right? So the timeline becomes a reasonable structure where you're working towards an end point. So, obviously with a timeline, you're being specific. You want to know exactly where it is that you're going to end up at this certain time. So, for example, the 18th of June, again, back onto our weight loss thing, I would be, that would be my timeline, and I would take 2 pounds, as I said, a week to work myself through it. With a timeline like changing your entire life, moving, emigrating, giving up work, giving everything up essentially, and moving lock stock to a new country, your timeline is a lot longer. And for me, it went over a full year. In fact, when we were coming back, it came over 4 years, because we needed that timeline to be able to actually put into the life we were living in Thailand. So when we were coming back to the UK, My husband and I made the decision that we were going to come back about 4 years before we came back, because I wasn't happy in Thailand at the time. I had been very depressed. I was depressed when we made this decision to come back, and it felt like a weight off. It felt like a release to me. So I felt like that was a really good move for all of us. But then we decided that, but we've moved here. We've been here for 3 years. We've moved here. We want to make the most of it. We've made friends. We've set down roots. We're going to need to do this and that and the other. We're going to need to tie up the loose ends in Thailand. We are 5 people. In fact, we were 4 at the time, but then we became 5. And so, yeah, there was a lot of kind of like shifting around things to do. So when you're doing your timeline, take that into consideration. Take the enormity of the change that you're considering into consideration when you are making your timeline. Okay, next thing is make it count. By making it count, I mean, this is your life. This is your life. This is your every moment of every day. Okay? It needs to be amazing. It needs to be reflective of who you are. It needs to be full of excitement and energy and joy. It needs to be inspiring. Okay? It needs to be something that you can really get your teeth into and feel passionate about. If you don't make your goals inspiring, then you won't feel drawn towards them. Okay? If you don't align your emotions with your inspiring goal, you won't feel like you are ever going to get there, one thing, but also like you don't even almost deserve to get there is another. Okay? This is why it's so important to align your emotions in with this process as well. We'll be coming to that a little bit later on. But inspiring your goals, or setting inspiring goals rather, is the beginning to success for as far as I'm concerned. Because as long as you can look at it and you can feel like, yes, that is the life that I want to be living, then your drive is there, your passion is there, that want to succeed is there. Okay? And it's really, really important. It's really important. Because again, when things get tough, and they will, when things get tough, you need to really be able to bring it. You need to really be able to be like, why am I doing this again? Oh, yeah, because when I've done this, this, and this, I'm going to be feeling like this. This is what I'll be experiencing in my life. This will be the house that I'm living in. This will be the country that I'm living in, and I'll have all these things that I know will make me happy. And so that in itself is usually inspiring for people. It's usually that whole, right, I'm going to have the things that I want to have in this life. This is what I'm capable of. This is what I can do. And you move towards it and you get it done. So having an inspiring reason for doing what you're doing, for the plan that you're setting, is hugely important, because it's your grounding, your foundation. It's the thing that you'll always come back to for the joy, for the passion, for the drive, for the determination to really get it done. Even in the face of adversity, even in the kind of like, oh, I'm too tired to do it today kind of feelings that you're getting, make it inspiring. Make it so that you have a few key words that you say to yourself, like Thailand beach happy, for example. Thailand, I love it. Beach, I love it. Happy, I'm there. It's kind of like those things. If you lead yourself into it, then you will achieve it. It's as simple as that. It's the law of attraction. But be specific. Lead yourself into it specifically, with measurement, with evidence, then with inspiration, making sure that your goal is inspiring, that it fills you up, that it makes you feel happy just thinking about it. Okay? And those things will keep driving you forward. Again, when you're making things inspiring, put emotion into it. Really feel that feeling. As we talked about with the importance of imagination a couple of weeks ago, connect in with your body. Okay, great way to do this is putting your hands on your heart. Put your hands on your heart. Connect in with your body. What do you feel? Do you feel excited about the day ahead of you? Do you feel nervous about the day ahead of you? Do you feel happy enough about it? How do you feel? Are you feeling like it's just the same old routine? Boring, boring, boring. Are you? Because if you are, that's your life you're talking about. It's just the same old routine, boring, boring, boring. And the only person that can change it is you. Okay, so feel that emotion that's attached to that, because there's going to be a little bit of resistance. There's going to be a little bit like, oh, I don't know, maybe not today. I'll just pick it up again tomorrow. You're going to have these feelings. But essentially, if you can draw the emotion, the energy in motion, emotion, right? If you can draw that up and push it out, you're on your way. Okay. Then one of the last things that I want to talk about when you're goal setting is writing everything down. Okay. Because it's very good. We all do it all day long. You can have 5 minutes time and you're like, I get this all the time. I don't know if you do. If you are, I'm walking my dog, for example, I'm walking in the middle of a great big field in Chertsey Meads, and I'm thinking about something specifically. So say I'm thinking about what I'm going to be teaching that evening in yoga. And I'm thinking about the class and I'm thinking about their abilities and their needs, what it is, what sort of a day they will have had, what kind of class I would like to lead them. And as I go into this thought space, this specific thought space where I'm thinking about what it is that I'm going to be planning later for these people that I'm teaching, I'll get things drop in. And by drop in, I mean I'll have thoughts that come to me and say, oh, I bet they've had a really tiring day. Oh, I bet they've had, I bet they're absolutely worn out from standing on their feet all day long. I bet their lower backs give them problems, and I bet their shoulders give them problems from the amount that they sit down and then the amount that they stand as well. Because also when you're standing, if you're not standing correctly, engaging your hips, engaging your quadriceps so that you can draw the hips forward and keep that lower back straight, then you find that the bottom begins to tend to go out. You tend to start resting the top of your ribs on the top of your belt, as you kind of like just slump into a standing position. And that's not good for anyone or anything. It's not good for your spine. It's not good for your breath. When you're breathing, you're really taking the energy into your body and you're enabling yourself to stay alert and awake, and you're on the ball with it all. Whereas if you're tired, you tend to kind of slump and there's no energy in your body and you're not using energy in your body to kind of be able to achieve anything. And so I think it's important to begin to write these things down, because these things drop in, these kind of messages just drop in wherever you're at, whatever you're doing. And you have a choice. There's like the 5-second rule. You have a choice as to whether to act on it now or to whether write it down for later or whether to just let it go. And the majority of us will have these little drop-ins all day long and we just let them go. They just kind of go, oh, that was a good idea. And then it goes out into the abyss and you never see it again. And you struggle. You think, what was that thought I had earlier? Now, what was we doing? I was walking through the meads. I was watching the dog and I was thinking about my class for the evening. What was it that I had a thought about? What was it? I can't remember. Because that's the truth as well, is that actually so many other things happen between that drop-in space and you actually writing it down or saying it out loud or manifesting it in some physical way. There are so many things that take you out of that headspace that it stops you from really acting immediately, and manifestation is simply thought to word to action, or even sometimes thought to action. Yeah. But we tend to sort of talk about what we're going to do first. We tend to kind of be a little bit nervous about what it is that we're going to do. So we speak it out to the world and that makes it feel solid. That makes it feel safe. That makes it feel real. Okay. So when you're setting your goals, make sure that when you write it down, I always write down jots first. So I'll always just free fall on my pad. So, my life goal is at the moment, it is to take the kids to India. So that's my most recent one. I've really decided that I want to take them to India. I want them to understand from my perspective what it is that I do and why. And I feel like taking them to India will be a great introduction to yoga for them. They've all done yoga and that with me at home. And my daughters have been to my classes that I do for the children. They've all grown up seeing me on a mat one way or another. And so for me, it feels a little bit like the next kind of step forward for me and my family is to do something like this. However, I do recognize that in terms of like, what they eat. My children all eat very well, but they all eat very varied meals. I tend to cook 2 or 3 meals a night for my family because of all of our different tastes and wants and needs and all that sort of thing. And every now and again, I'll do a massive like pizza night where I make my own pizzas and my own sauce, and we do all the different toppings and stuff like that, so that they get to I get to make one meal and they get to choose, and so that's a really nice kind of way of being able to solidify in your psyche as well, is to actually write things down. You can do it in any number of formats. You can get journals that help you to write out your goals and all those sorts of things. But for me, I like to write down my goal in the middle and then round it, brainstorm around it, all the things that I need to do before I can get there. So, for example, I want them to be able to eat properly while we're over there. So we're introducing curry into their lives now in all its different shapes and forms. Homemade, sauces, dry, breads, all sorts, pickles, all sorts. We're making it all so that they can taste it and experience it before they get there, so that they're not too scared about it and worried about it. Because my greatest fear is always, and I'm sure loads of other mothers have this, but is always that I take my kids to a restaurant or to a different country on holiday, or even when they just go around to a friend's house, the friend's mum will say, oh, I hear Marley's like a vegetarian. This is my middle girl. And I'm kind of, well, yeah, but don't let that put you off. She loves a bowl of pasta, pasta with tomato or pesto. She's all over. She will eat if you cooked a massive meal with just meat on it, just give her all the vegetables and she'll eat all that stuff up. Don't go to too much trouble. Don't go to too much hassle, whatever. And we'll go from there. So when you're being specific and you're writing down all the different ways of getting to your point, then, you can really begin to see how the picture is growing, how the picture of creation, if you like, is growing in your mind, how you're going to get there, what it's going to look like when you get there, what it is that you need to manifest, or what changes you might need to make in your life before you go, before you set off on your goal path, so that you can get there successfully. And I always think, it forewarned is forearmed. You can go into something blindly and you can just make it the best possible experience ever. And I love to do things like that. And I feel like with traveling, you do that all the time. You can go into a country relatively blindly. You probably know the name of the currency. You probably know what language they speak, but you don't necessarily know the language. And you probably know that you're going to have this, and this visa restriction, depending on your passport. But to know all those things means that you can prepare for all those things. It means that you can be forearmed. I think it's important to really think through everything and, again, be specific, be measured. By the time we leave England to go back to Thailand, for example, I want my children to have learned this, that, and the other. I want them to have done clubs after school. I want them to have, I want them to have spent more time with our family as much as we can. Those are the sorts of things that I'm moving towards. And then when you begin to write them all down and you've got kind of like write out a timeline, so top of the timeline, you can do it horizontally, you can do it vertically, however you most resonate with. I tend to do mine along. So I'll start my starting point here, which would be like today, 14th of May. Is it the 14th or the 15th? I can't remember. Anyway, 14th, 15th of May. And then you carry on with what your next step will going to be. And it has to be within either that day or the next couple of days. Okay. So say, for example, I'm working towards getting my kids to go to India. Sometime this week, we are going to make flatbreads together so that they can really experience the making, because I found they get much more enthused about food if they're actually involved in it. So we're going to make flatbreads together. And as we make them, I'm going to tell them about how I would see the people in India making flatbreads on the side of the road. And where we're using an oven and we're using a rolling pin and we've got a lovely surface to be able to prepare on, they're pushing it into pans, into tins, and using the heel of their hand rather than a rolling pin to really work out all the knots and the bulbous bits, the lumps or whatever in the bread that we've made. Okay, then we're then putting ours in the oven. So we're talking about the heat of the oven, how hot it needs to be, how long it needs to take in the oven. And again, I'm saying to them, like, if you're taking the bread out halfway through, you're going to have this worry, you're going to have that worry. So let's do it like this, and then we're going to end up with this product. We're going to end up with a nice kind of half, like a little bit crispy on the outside, but nice doughy bread. It's going to be great for holding our dal makhinis, our curries. We're going to use it for eating with. We're not going to just use it as we would bread here, like dipping it in soup on the side, anything like that. In India, they actually use it as a way of being able to keep your hands relatively clean as you eat directly from your bowl. So they're not only learning about how to make a staple part of the Indian food that we might be experiencing when we go over there, but they're also learning about the amount of energy and effort it takes to think about and create this food, and what you can use it for, as well as just sort of stuffing it in your mouth and it tasting good. What else you can use it for? So for example, for picking up the food with the bread, for scooping up a curry and placing it into your mouth, so that you no need for knives and forks. Because I know that when we get over there will come that time when we go to a restaurant and there are no knives and forks. And instead of them freaking out, I want them to feel like, oh, mummy, should we just ask for some flatbread? Because you remember before when we made flatbreads, that's what you said that they used over here when they don't have a knife and fork. Lovely, brilliant, perfect. Let's do that. Let's go. And that's how we do it. And you find that, their excitement and enthusiasm for trying something new as well will then permeate into the rest of the week, into the rest of the month, whatever, because they're excited about doing something. They've found a new way. It's worked out really well for them. And they're excited to tell you and share with you all about it. So the next thing that I would then be doing is probably at the weekend. And I would kind of be looking at music, playing some music for them, for example. So I'll get out my chants and my Vedic mantra music and those sorts of things. And I just put that on rather than the radio, rather than listening to CDs of pop artists or whoever it is that you listen to. We're going to be having that in the house. And I want us all to be mindful of how we interact with one another when this music's on, because some musics can really aggravate children especially, but some musics can really aggravate the psyche, but other musics can really help lead the psyche into a path of the divine, I suppose, into a part of recognizing their being, whether it helps them to dance, or whether it calms them down, or whether it makes them pensive. Music can do a lot of things. And I think that that's, one of its most special qualities, and something that I certainly want to introduce my children to in every country that I go to. I want them to be able to recognize music and life from all over the world. So I've been specific there. I've said that this is what I'm doing. On Saturday, we will be listening to all the Indian music that I have in stock. We're going to listen to it all. I want you guys to become familiar with it. I want you to recognize how it makes you feel, whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, why not? What frustrates you about it? If you do like it, then, would you like to hear more of that? Would you like to hear it live? Would you like to go to maybe a concert or something where they're playing this all live and you can experience it like that? Chances are your child's going to be like, oh yeah, wicked. That would be great. But if they're not enjoying it, then ask them to explain why as well. Ask them to be specific, to be measured, to say, what is it about this, this music that you don't like? What is it making you feel? Are you feeling tired and you don't want to feel tired? Does it make you feel like too romantic or something like that? You can really get into it with the kids. It's amazing. But do the same for yourself as well. Sit and feel like, what is this music doing for me? Do I feel relaxed? If I feel relaxed, let's build on that unity and begin to work the body, just gently rolling my shoulders back and taking a deep breath in, because they're singing, not me. And then when you've kind of got to that stage, when you've got to your kind of specific way of looking at things and creating things in your mind, and you're recognizing things that be potential triggers for you, then you can look at the things that, the ways that you might be able to handle those things. So for example, music, if you're not enjoying, when you travel on a shoestring, which is the way I've done most of my traveling around the world. There are a lot of outside things going on sometimes that you just want to escape from, whether it be like the ting, ting, ting of some really dodgy foreign music that you hate, whether it be smell that is really far too intense for your delicate nostrils, whether it be a situation with people around you where you're feeling intimidated, in some way you just want to get out of that situation. You're just not feeling comfortable there. And there's certainly a lesson to be learned with making yourself comfortable in a situation that you're not comfortable with. But talking about going, to India with the children, I don't want to put them in an environment where we're in, like, for example, a cab with 8 other people. They're having to sit on a stranger's lap and listen to music blaring, because the guy won't turn his tinny radio off or something. So what would I give them to be able to handle that situation? Okay, first of all, I wouldn't have them sitting on a stranger's lap, would be the first thing. So either myself or my husband will have to sacrifice our comfort for the sake of our children so that they can sit on our lap, feel comfortable and be safe in our journey. The next thing is I would invite them to, perhaps use headphones, their own headphones and their own music. If they're not enjoying the music that's making them feel tense, if it's making them feel agitated or worried or anxious in any way, then I invite them to use their own music. This is not a time for playing games. This is not a time for video gaming or for playing on your phone or anything like that. But it becomes about being able to control your environment and being able to gently ease people into something that could be quite intense for them. Okay, just thinking about taking my kids to India now, recognizing that actually there's a lot of things that are going to be quite intense for them. Travel is going to be one of them for sure. The noise is going to be one. The number of people around you all the time. So how can I introduce that to them? How could I get my kids ready for that without too much of a sacrifice, without too much anxiety going on? I think one of the ways you can perhaps do it is to take your kids out in rush hour. Take them down to London, take them into the big smoke, wherever it is you live in the world. Take them out there with them at the busiest times of the day and allow them to kind of hold onto your hand, but allow them to navigate you through, so that they're looking where people are coming from, where people are going, and aligning themselves with that movement so that they can begin to kind of not feel hustled and bustled and bushed around, but actually begin to feel like, okay, I know that if I walk on the outside edge of the pavement or the inside edge of the pavement, I'm more likely to have more space for me. And so, that's one way that I'll be preparing them for that. We'll go up to London and I'll just say to them, you think it's bad now, 5 o'clock, London Bridge, everybody walking across, you think it's bad now. This would be like this the whole time when we're in India, but it would just be random people everywhere, all around you, the touching and the feeling part. Again, my kids are a little bit used to that because of being brought up in Asia, but also, knowing that if you've had enough, you can put your hand up. It's like the universal way of saying stop. It's saying no, isn't it? Put your hand up and shake your head or shake your hand so that, you don't want them to. Things like that is, again, being able to take yourself into that new zone, into that new space and imagine and create what it might be like. And that way you can second guess things. There's always going to be an element of surprise when you get there. Always, maybe surprised that you even got there in the first place. But there's always going to be that element of you being able to feel like I've prepared myself. I've set myself up here. I've dealt with a lot of instances, a lot of situations like this before. And now I feel like actually, although does look busy, it is a little bit intimidating, I feel also that I can handle this. I've walked around London. This is Tokyo. I've walked around Delhi. This is Bangkok. Those sorts of places. I've walked around Toronto. This is LA. It is all these things that you can work into your practice to be able to eliminate some of the fears and to be able to put yourself in the best position that you can to be able to achieve your goals. So we've talked about being specific. We've talked about making sure that there's some level of measurement in your goal setting so that you can recognize that when you've achieved it. That might be through evidence, that might be through I don't know, it might be through amount of weight you've lost. It might be through the fact that your kids now are really enjoying curries. It might be through the fact that, I know I want to walk them around the mountains. So we're now walking for 3 kilometers every week with the dog to enable that to happen. All these things that you can bring in to enable yourself to succeed. And faith as well. Another thing that I'd like to actually just touch on while we're talking about sort of faith and all the supporting things that you can do to help create your goal is also like a vision board. I'm actually quite new to vision boards. I've done a few in my life, but I've just started making them a little bit differently to the way I did before. Before I just kind of write them down and stick a couple of images on there. Now I've got like what I'm calling my moving image, my moving board really, is that it's because as much as it is my life as I want to have it and I want to live it, it's constantly evolving every day. And it's becoming more about gratitude than it is about, about moods or getting stuff done or manifesting. So I've kind of changed my idea on how they work and how they can work for me. But even initially, the first thing to do when you've ever, you're setting yourself a goal is to visualize that in your mind and then take the components out of your mind, find some pictures, find a bit of paper and just glue everything onto with maybe a little note underneath reminding you what that symbolizes to you and what that's going to mean to you and how much you're going to give up and perhaps even what you're going to give up to be able to get there. So you've kind of got your vision board down there. You've got your mood board. You've got your manifesting board. You're able to really see what it is that you're creating. You're able to focus and then refocus back in on that as well. And that is going to definitely help you to feel inspired every morning when you wake up. Get up, look at your board, remember what you're aiming for, remember what your steps are for the day. Okay, yeah, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, I've got to do the other. These are the milestones that I've created for myself to get to where I want to go. So once that's been done, then you can just kind of like relax, put your vision board by the side of your bed, and every morning when you wake up, that's the first thing you see, and boom, you're like, ah, yes, that's what I'm doing. And even if you're feeling sad, even if you're waking up feeling tired or whatever, it's just really nice to look at it and have a focus and be like, yeah, okay, that's where I'm going now. Okay, so what's my first thing? That's right. And down I go. Let's go and do my exercise. Let's go and make myself a healthy breakfast. Let's go for my run in the morning with my dog or my friend down the road. Whatever it is that you do, make sure that you include that on your vision board so that every morning when you wake up, you feel inspired to create your vision, to create your goal. So that's another beautiful way of doing it. So when you've manifested your goals or you're on your path to manifesting your goals and you come across hiccups along the way, again, remember, fail. Remember that this is the first attempt in learning. Okay, remember that everyone goes through failure to learn, to gain. Everyone goes through sacrifice. When you change anything that you change requires some level of sacrifice, whether it just literally be on your comfort zone and that's it. Okay, if you think about like we've got the royal wedding coming up this weekend and you're thinking about the royal wedding and you're thinking about, wow, this girl, this Meghan Markle is just about to kind of inherit a whole princesshood. What does that look like? You can guarantee all that change will also come with a lot of sacrifice. This is a woman who has gone from being someone who people just sort of see in the street randomly when they watch, after watching television, to somebody who could not now walk out of her front door without paparazzi all around her, without having to go out knowing that she'll be taken a million different photos of her, and how she can still look presentable and glamorous and all those things we want from our new princess, whilst at the same time being able to kind of detach from all that, I suppose. Detachment's so important, just moving away from it all and just being able to recognize that actually that's not the important thing. I think one of the most important things that you can do as well is recognize when you're goal setting that your goals are likely to change. I say this dubiously because although I see it with my clients, I would say 9 times out of 10, there is obviously the odd person who knows exactly what they want. They just need the accountability. They know how they're going to get there. boom, they're there, but there are often a lot of people that I coach who come to me with a specific goal, and then it ends up being really about something else rather than the money worries they are experiencing. It ends up being more about what they feel that they're internally worth, what their sense of spirituality looks like to them, and whether or not they're fulfilling that vision. Because to, again, authentically stand tall in who you are, you need to know exactly what it is that you want to manifest, how you want to grow it, and what part of you that's going to be expressing that, so that you can really connect in with it. I mean, obviously, when I'm doing yoga asana and it's just asana, I am looking at my body, I'm looking at my physicality, I'm looking at how how agile I am that day, or how much sleep I've had, or how flexible I'm feeling at the moment, all those things. And all those things will help me to have a really good class, and I have to kind of I've had to sacrifice a lot of things to be able to get there. So I think sacrifice is a necessary point of change. And just while we're talking briefly about change, because I'm coming to the end of really talking about goal manifestation now. But one thing I did want to leave you on is that change is so constant that it's happening every second of every day, right? But it's also in the long term, when you're setting your goals, I think it's important to remember that change is a process in itself. So your goal setting is a process, and it's going to end up with you having achieved something at the end of it. But there will be change throughout that. And each individual block of change that you experience, I want you to try and look at in one of 5 ways, okay? Because I've been through a lot of change in my life. And what I've noticed about change is that you can split it down into sections. You've got the knowing something has to change or wanting something to change section. Then you've got the how am I going to get to that change? What does my change look like? What am I going to need to sacrifice section? Then you've got the whole, okay, sacrificing, giving up, enabling myself in other ways, and being able to, I don't know, just relax almost into the change, accept that it's happening, don't keep fighting it, let go of the resistance. Then you've got the time after the change. So maybe you've moved and you're in your new house and everything's new, or you're in your new job and everybody's new, and you're kind of looking around and you're feeling like a fish out of water. You're feeling like you're not sure whether or not you're going to be able to really bring this as you kind of thought you would before, and that part of change is really important. I think it's like what I call the calming down, the settling, the settling period, where you arrive somewhere and you're probably enthused about arriving there, but at the same time there is still that settling period, that period where you kind of feel like you need to get your feet under the table at work, or you need to, I don't know, be able to just relax into whatever it is that you've changed. So say you've changed your weight, for example. I'm just trying to think again about that. You've changed your weight. You've lost your 15 kilos. A certain part of you is going to think to yourself now, oh, we can get back on the donuts and that sort of thing. No, see, this is where the settling into change becomes. This becomes our whole, I've changed myself. Okay, I need to recognize that. I need to allow that to just be for a while before I take on anything else. So I'm looking at myself. I've lost my 15 kilos. I'm back in my lovely jeans. I'm feeling really good about myself. I can wear that amazing outfit to the wedding. But I'm still in that settling period whereby I don't want to let go of all the things that made me or encouraged me or supported me through change. I really want it more to be about letting myself be right now, right here where I am. Okay. And then the next step to it, the 5th step to it, is accepting change as part of your lifestyle. So integrating that change into part of your lifestyle and just easily and simply being able to move on through with the new body that you've got, or with the new job that you've got, in the new house, in the new country, at the country that you've arrived into, all of those instances, all of those examples. You need to just kind of then let yourself be where you are. So that's like the settling, and then the I'm here right now. feeling, like this is my new reality. This is it. The settling in period has kind of gone. And now we're working towards really just letting go of everything that doesn't serve me and enjoying that. So I hope that's been helpful today. I hope that you feel a little bit more inspired maybe to think about your life more creatively, with imagination, with passion, with drive. I hope that you feel like now you've got a point to be able to start from, a reference point to be able to start from. And of course, if you have any questions, you can email me on kirsty@thishappyguru.com. You can go through to my website. You can contact me on Facebook. I'm down as Kirsty Bentley Taylor. And I have a Facebook page, This Happy Guru, as well. If you'd like to contact me, I'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like any more hints or points on how you can be really creating your life, and if you start with my guidelines, with my points of how to get started, and you come to a point where you're not feeling like you're able to move or shift that goal, then contact me, and we can go through a little bit more detail and specifically exactly what it is that you would like to see changing and why it is that you feel like you've hit up against that block, against that stumbling block. Is it one that you often hit up against? Is it the kind of, I don't know, if you want to get on stage and sing, is it that getting out in front of people that is your massive stumbling block? Let's work through that together as well. Life, I really, really believe, is for creating every day, and every day doesn't have to look the same. Every day can look completely different if you want, but you have to design it for yourself. You have to get out there and do it. So if there are things in your life that you don't like, that you're not happy with, that you want to change, then change them. Be that person. Be the person who can change these things. All right? Because you absolutely can. And it only takes small steps, moving forward in the right direction, with the right goal, with the right intention in mind. And before you know it, you're there. And suddenly you're like, oh, that was good. Well, now I'm here. Where else am I going to be? And what you'll find is, if you've written everything down as well, is that when you get to your goal, you become really aware of it. You think to yourself, I've read this before. Where is it? And then you go through and you read through all the things that you wanted to achieve, and you recognize that you've achieved every one. And that's like 6 months or a year on. And you're feeling really amazing about yourself, because that whole dream life that you wrote out, you could either write it in bullet points, you can write it as a story, write it in present tense so that it's important to, so that you can actually imagine it. Because if you're imagining into the future, there's too many ifs and buts. If you're imagining something from your past that you're trying to recreate, you're holding on to the past. You're holding on to a part of yourself that's already grown past that. Okay, it's left it behind, didn't need it anymore. So it threw it off and it came forward, yourself, the person that you are right here, right now, today. Okay, so be present, make sure you write in present tense, and make sure that you really visualize the goal that you're setting, and really imagine how it feels when you're there, how beautiful you feel if you've lost that money, if you've lost that weight, or how powerful you feel, if you like, when you've gained that job, when you've worked hard and you've worked your way up and you get to that CEO position, if you like, all those things. Just be really, really aware of every part of the journey, and commend yourself and be kind to yourself and love yourself throughout. Support yourself with those things throughout, because if you're supported, if you feel like you're championing yourself, then it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's all about you, and it's all about the life that you live and why it's so important to you. And that right there is self-expression, and that is why you're here, to create, to manifest, to design. Okay? So don't be scared. I'm here if you need me. And I really hope you have fun with this, because at the end of the day, this is an exercise to really have fun with before you start getting into the kind of the tougher stuff, the actually making it happen. Really have fun with writing down your dreams, the things that make you light up, the things that make you sparkle. And above all, enjoy the process. Thank you so much for listening to me. This has been Kirsty Bentley Taylor for This Happy Guru. Namaste.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lainey Liberty.
And this is Miro Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.